Hello everyone, Darkside Phil here, and welcome to another edition of the Hateful Truth video game review series, where I give you maximum truth and minimum bullshit regarding the latest video game releases. And today we're going to be talking about a digital-only release that is the newest offering from Frictional Games, the game studio that made Amnesia: The Dark Descent many years ago and actually became a viral hit on the internet for how good that game was. The name of the game is SOMA. And right off the bat, I can tell you that there's some people who unfortunately have played SOMA or watched someone play SOMA and have kind of said, well, it's not Amnesia, therefore it sucks, it's boring, and kind of written off the game. I'm here to tell you that I've just recently, in fact, not even 20 minutes ago, finished my playthrough of SOMA. I enjoyed the game. I want to tell you what I liked and didn't like about it, and go from there. So, first of all, before we even get started, I want to tell you that I played the PlayStation 4 version, and that version of the game does run at 30 frames per second. I don't know if the PC version runs any better than that. And I can also tell you that the game does have some stuttering, locking, and unfortunately some loading issues. Is it anything that's game-breakingly bad? Absolutely not. I never really had an issue with the game in that regard, but it is present. I don't know if the PC version doesn't have those or runs at a higher frame rate. I am reviewing the PlayStation 4 version of the game, okay? So, SOMA. You would think if it's from the makers of Amnesia, this is going to be a psychological thriller as well as a jump scare horror game, and to some extent, I would say yes. But allow me to at least give you the basic premise of the game so you can understand what the psychological thrill ride of the game is. So some basic spoilers are coming. If you don't want to know the very introductory of the plot, plug your ears right now. You are Simon. You live in Toronto, Canada in the year 2015. And apparently you just got into a horrendous car accident that possibly has caused brain damage. And you're off to go see a doctor who says he's going to scan your brain to try to figure out maybe how to stop the damage through more, let's say, experimental medical means. It's not necessarily he's going to delve into your brain and do physical surgery. He's going to try to find a way to make your brain heal itself. So you go to the doctor's office, you get your brain scanned, and next thing you know, you wake up in a futuristic world and you don't know what the hell is going on. At first, it almost seems like you may be on a space station or it's way in the future, but come to find out you're actually in the year 2104. You're under the water in an underwater civilization, but not really. It's more like, think of it, like I said, kind of like a space station with multiple outposts, and you're kind of stranded there. You're completely just, how did I get here? I'm from the year 2015. How could I be in the future? And what is going on? As you begin to investigate this crazy-looking sci-fi atmosphere, you start to realize things are not as they're supposed to be. There's this weird growth that's kind of leaking and growing all over the station that you're in, and it almost seems like there may be something following you around this base. As you play further into the game, you're going to find out, yes, things have gone awry. I'm not going to try to spoil too much, but I will tell you that this game has a lot of philosophical and psychological thriller-like questions, such as, what is human life? Is human life to be in a physical human body and have a consciousness? Or is it, if you just simply have a consciousness without a human body, is that considered a life? What is the extent of life? And over the course of the game, you're actually going to have many moral dilemmas that come up. Uh-oh, there's a robot that's in my way that may or may not be alive. I have no idea if it's really alive or not. But I really need to open this door behind the robot. Do I destroy the robot in order to power the door? Or do I leave the robot alive and have to go out and try to find more difficult means in order to open that door? And these kind of questions pose themselves multiple times throughout the course of SOMA. SOMA will take you from many different underwater bases and many different kinds of areas. Some just kind of look like, okay, this one's almost normal, but maybe something went wrong, to completely overridden, enemies everywhere, and, you know, a lot of scary kind of stuff. The gameplay itself of SOMA is what you would expect from someone who had designed Amnesia. A lot of investigation, a lot of looking around and going into empty rooms and looking for logs, looking for clues, reading data logs off of computers, etc., looking at pictures, trying to piece together what exactly happened here in this underwater base, how the hell you got to the future to begin with, and ultimately the kind of moral choices that you're going to make in the course of the game. That's paired with puzzles. Yes, there are actually some puzzles in SOMA, and I was actually pleased because recently I played a game called Everybody's Gone to the Rapture that also posed similar philosophical questions, but had no real gameplay at all in the game. It was just walking around. This game, yeah, there's a lot of walking, but there's also a lot of puzzles you'll have to solve. Gee, here's a little mini puzzle you have to solve in this thing to open up a door so you can get a critical item. There's scavenger hunting where you need items to get past a certain area. There's different things you'll have to do, and therefore, yeah, there's some pretty decent gameplay in the game, as well as, yes, there is going to be some survival horror gameplay. Well, there will be eventually some monsters coming after you, and you're going to have to hide, and similar to Amnesia, there's no way to fight back. You are kind of helpless in this game. There's no weapon or melee mechanic at all. You just need to run from the monsters. The good news is, similarly to other survival horror games recently, the monsters are blind, but they're really good at hearing. So if you make any kind of noise when you're walking along, if you're not crouching, they're going to hear you, they're going to run after you. There is a healing mechanic, and what I mean by that is, no, you don't instantly die every time a monster touches you. You typically get 2 to 3 chances. So even if a monster catches you, okay, the monster will disappear, then you'll have another chance to try to sneak by the monster from where you left off. If you do get hit, you'll actually, it's a pretty interesting health mechanic in this game. It's not that you have a health bar and there's not a red blood haze that comes over the screen like typically in these games. No. In this game, your vision becomes blurred, almost like you're looking at a digital screen that's kind of out of focus or malfunctioning. And so the more you get hit, the harder it is to actually see. There will be these healing pods in the game where you'll literally take your fist and just punch it as if you're fisting someone's asshole. I know that's gross, but it's pretty much what it is. You fist the asshole to get health back, and then all of a sudden, your vision will clear up and things will be hunky-dory, okay? So overall, during the course of SOMA, there's going to be all kinds of twists and turns as the plot of this game fleshes out. There's also going to be a decent amount of monsters that come after you, although I'll be honest, most of the monsters are almost identical. They may look different, but most of them kind of the same deal. They're going to be sneaking around, they can't really see you, but you need to avoid them and not make a lot of noise to get past them. And it's kind of wash, rinse, and repeat when it comes to the monsters of SOMA, until the second half of the game when you finally start reaching the ocean floor, and now you've got really cool ocean exploration mechanics. And let me tell you something, out of all the games I've ever played that had underwater mechanics, SOMA does it best. You feel like you're underwater during the underwater segments. The physics and everything, you move slower, you can hear really awesome surround sound effects of water and stuff rushing around you. In addition to that, the visuals look amazing, like really well done in this game for the underwater gameplay. And I very much said, during the course of the gameplay, I said, man, if only this kind of visual quality could have been in the BioShock series, everyone would have shat themselves. Unfortunately, we are in 2015 and BioShock has been completed now for over a year. But I digress, it's really nice. And the visuals of this game are probably one of the strong points. Really detailed environments, really nice looking stuff. It does look like you're in some kind of a futuristic underwater base. The underwater caves or whatever, they all look great. I really like the graphics. Unfortunately, playing on the PlayStation 4 was limited to only 30 frames per second. That's kind of a negative in my opinion. The game itself lasts about anywhere from, I'd say, you could probably, if you knew exactly what to do, beat the game in like 5 to 6 hours. If you're going to explore a little bit more than that, and you're going to be looking for data logs, and you're going to be trying to piece together the story, probably 7 to 8 hours. If you really suck at the game and you keep dying, maybe 10 hours, alright? But the good news about SOMA is that it's only a $30 release. It's half the price of a normal retail game, so when you think about that in relation, wow, I could get maybe 8-10 hours of gameplay out of it. That's not bad for 30 bucks. In addition, there are actually some critical choices during the course of the game that I'm very interested to see if you made a different choice, if it would affect it. Now, I did not have time to replay SOMA a whole second time, but I can tell you there's 2 or 3 critical decisions in the game that I made a choice, and I'm wondering if I had made it differently, if something different would have happened. And I don't know, maybe it doesn't, but it at least gives you the illusion of choice during the course of the game. And really, that illusion of choice leads to you thinking big picture philosophically about the nature of life, the nature of the human existence. I mean, I couldn't tell you, I started thinking about life and death, I started thinking about what is really human life. Could an AI in a machine actually, or a robot, be considered a human as long as it's sentient? How can you tell if something is sentient? Tons of these issues come up during the course of the game. And I will tell you this, Amnesia: The Dark Descent is known for being scary, okay? But it also has cool philosophical questions and things that make you think. It's a thriller. but it's known for the scares. It's known for the invisible enemies and the monsters chasing you in the dark, and that's really how Amnesia got its big hype and its big popularity, right? SOMA, although it has monsters, that's not the focus of the game, and therefore I really feel SOMA, that's what I said at the beginning of this review. A lot of people looked at it, oh, that's not Amnesia, it's not very scary in the first couple hours, so fuck this game. And that's not the attitude you should have, especially if you're looking for a thinking person's game. This is one of those games that makes you go, and it makes you think. And again, I'm going to draw this parallel. Unlike Everybody's Gone to the Rapture earlier this year that had the same kind of what if scenario, make you think kind of a deal, it has gameplay. It's actually an interactive video game that requires you to do more than just walk in circles, which is the problem with Everybody's Gone to the Rapture. This game has lots of interesting, fun, exploration, puzzle-solving gameplay, and it's really nice. So, in that regard, I like the writing, I did like the ending, because the ending almost seems like it's going to be a crappy ending and then actually gives you a decent ending. I really liked SOMA. And I know there will be people who will criticize it and say, well, it's too boring because it's not enough focus on scares. Not every game has to be focused on scares. This game is more of a sci-fi, thriller, psychological focus than all crazy monster scares, you know what I mean? And I think, again, if that's what you're looking for, you might want to skip SOMA. But if you're looking for a game that's going to be worth $30, you're going to have a really fun, unique experience with gameplay and a psychological factor, SOMA's your game. It sucks because I want to tell you about the game. Like, that's how good I think that the plot of this game is, but I don't want to spoil it for you any further than I already have with the minor ones, because that's really how I can tell you the game shines, but I can't spoil it for you in the review. So ultimately, okay, what's good about SOMA? The graphics, when it comes to the detail and how they look, the mix of gameplay and narrative instead of just narrative or just gameplay, the fact that the story is very well written and the game really makes you really think. 4 awesome points. What are the negatives about SOMA on the PlayStation 4? It only runs at 30 frames per second. I do think this game would have benefited if it ran at 60. The game is choppy in parts where the graphics are being pushed or the game is loading. Unfortunately, the game will stutter and lock up. That's a negative. And some people might argue it's a little bit on the shorter side, only being if you're not sucking at the game 6 to 8 hours long, and I can understand that. Again, in the modern era of 2015, a shorter game, a lot of people shy away from them, but at the same time, understand this is a budget title. It's only $30. So right now, you can't really, oh, it's a $60 game, it's over in 8 hours. No, not really. This one's twice as long as what you would expect for half the price, so you know what I mean? I think it's pretty good in that regard. But some people might have that as a negative. One thing that people will say is negative, but I don't agree, is that it's not scary enough. I don't think this game is meant to be a terrifying, scary game in regards to jump scares or horror. Even though some of those exist, I think it's more designed to be a psychological thriller terror game, and that got me. In that regard, the game made me think. It got me in that regard, and that's the kind of thing that will leave you. If I'm left walking away from SOMA thinking about the human condition and the existence of AIs, and is a human, what is a human, what's life, what's not life, if it leaves me thinking about that after I'm done with the game's done its job, and I feel this game did its job well. So, reviewing all factors, I'm going to give SOMA from Frictional Games an 8.5 out of 10. I feel that maybe if there was a little bit more in the story, and maybe it was a little bit longer, and maybe if the graphics had been a little bit better on the PlayStation 4 when it came to the juddering and the frame rate, I would have given an even higher score. But I think it's a really good game. It's one of, so far, narratively, one of my favorite games by far of the year of 2015. But I don't think it's like, wow, it blew me away game of the year, but it's still really solid. And if you have, you know, a few days to mess around and play a game like this and $30 to spare, don't miss out on SOMA. Listen, I know that SOMA released during a very busy gaming season, but that doesn't mean you should just completely ignore it, especially because it has a pedigree of being made from a game company that you know have made good games before. Check it out. It's definitely a great game. 8.5 out of 10. I really enjoyed it, and I think you will too. All right? So that is it for the Hateful Truth review of SOMA. I hope that you enjoyed it. You found it to have maximum truth and minimum bullshit, and I will see you next time on another edition of the Hateful Truth review series. Peace out, everybody. Alright, so let's continue into the doctor's office. Press and hold L2 while moving to run. Okay, now I know. I don't really want to run right now. Can I open this? Door's locked. 361.